What's up, Spectacle fans? Do you like editing? I don't. But since I have to do it on a daily basis, I want to go over some tools that I've found that make the whole editing slog a lot easier. I do a lot of video projects, whether it's commercials, interviews for businesses, or videos for Spectacle. It seems like I'm always filming something, and I love that. It's what I've always wanted to do since I was a kid. But do you know what I don't love?
Editing.
I find editing a tedious nightmare. Having to stare at my computer screen day after day, fighting the plethora of technical issues that come with that job.
It drains my soul.
I just want it to be done, but it won't be done unless I do it. Is that a paradox? Over the years, projects of mine have also been lost and forgotten entirely during the editing process. Editing, to me, is like the crappiest chore imaginable, and for a long time, I put it off. Sometimes for forever. Since editing has been terrorizing me for a decade, I decided I needed to do something to make the process easier for me. So I found some tools that have really helped me edit faster. Tool number 1, a gaming keypad, or gamepad, as some call it. One of the things that I hate the most about editing is having to remember the hotkeys, especially if you don't edit all the time. Having to go back and relearn what buttons do is crippling. Just press Alt-Shift plus F8 Command Space, and that's how you select a clip. A gamepad eliminates all of that hassle. I use the Razer Nostromo, but there's a lot of gamepads out there to choose from. A good one will cost you somewhere between $80 and $150. A gamepad puts all the editing hotkeys at your fingertips. But more importantly, you can customize each key so it stacks key functions. In Premiere, you have to hit Shift and Delete at the same time to ripple delete. Unless you have shack hands, you have to use 2 hands to do that. Why do I have to do that? You have to hit Control K just to make a simple slice. Why? But with a gamepad, you can take that obnoxious Control-K combo and map it to a single button. This is a big deal to me. I'm not exaggerating when I say that the Nostromo made me like to edit. Gamepads also have scroll wheels, which are perfect for scrubbing through the timelines and menus, and they offer custom key sets. That means that on key set 1, I can program all the keys for editing my rough cut. Then I can switch all the buttons to key set 2, which is where I set all the keys for correcting my audio. On my gamepad, I have 3 key sets readily available that I can use, depending on what I'm doing. I know a lot of you are thinking that a lot of keyboards are programmable, and that you can buy special keyboards just for editing, but I've tried all that. I didn't like any of it. There's something about how a gamepad condenses everything I need right into my hand. Also, since gamepads are made for gaming, the buttons are more sensitive and they have a more satisfying button click than most keyboards. I've found that finding a tool that feels good for you on a tactile level is important for making the editing experience more enjoyable. For example, I bought a Razer mouse that had a ton of programmable buttons on it, but I didn't like how it felt to use them, so I didn't. Another tip is to give yourself enough time to get used to your editing tool of choice. When you switch from a keyboard, it's going to feel awkward. I had to put my keyboard on the floor just to stop myself from using it as a crutch. Switching tools will make editing a bit slower at first, but you'll improve quickly as you adjust to your new setup. Now, tool number 2, the Palette Gear console. Now, since I bought this a few years ago, Palette Gear has since renamed itself to Monogram, and their new console coming out soon is called the Monogram console, just so you know. The Palette console is made of small magnetic squares that have knobs, sliders, and dials on them. They're magnetic, so you can set them up however you like on your desk. You can put them in a row, you can have them hug your keyboard in an L shape, whatever you want. I have mine set up in a sort of square that's next to my mouse. When I'm all done editing my cut, I use the Palette Gear solely for color correction. To color correct footage, you have to use a lot of sliders. Adjusting sliders with a mouse can be extremely annoying, especially if you want one clip to match the settings of another. With a mouse, you either get too much force or not enough. It's hard to hit that exact spot. You can always type in the percentage of a number that you want the slider to manually go to if you want, but that makes me have to go back to the stupid keyboard, and I don't want to do that. Can you set the digital tension of a slider within Premiere? No, because that program is stupid like that and made by programmers. So I set all the function I use the most, like exposure and contrast, to the palette knobs. Those are my favorite tools on the console. You can set the digital tension on each of them. So if you're adjusting the sharpness, you can make it so a tiny movement moves the sharpness slider a lot. Or you can make it so you have to crank the knob to move the sharpness slider just a little. You can also do that with the sliders. I set one of the button modules to undo, so every time I make a mistake, I can now angrily smack my undo button. Palette Gear also allows you to have a ton of key sets and works with a lot of different programs. I love the Palette Gear console, and no, they did not pay me to say that. They don't even know who I am, even though they should. Now, a Palette Gear or Monogram console, whatever you want to call it, is a luxury item. You do not need it to edit, and they're expensive. It will cost you a minimum of $300, depending on what options you want. But this video is about my favorite tools, not a list of cheap tools. I like it, it works, and it makes color correcting my footage more enjoyable. And that's it. Those are the only tools I need to edit all the footage that I've ever encountered. What do you guys use? Is there something better out there that I don't know about? If there is, let me know. But for today, that's it. Thank you for watching. Remember to smack that subscribe button. Smack it. Pretend you're hitting undo and smack the subscribe. Please. Bye.